Hola y bienvenidos al viaje por fotografías a Buenos Aires, Argentina. Welcome to this photo journey. Buenos Aires is the capital of Argentina. Argentina is a very large Spanish-speaking country at the tip of South America, although it takes up much more than the tip. Because of its land size, it extends well into the central portion of South America and even a bit into the northern part as well. There are 40 million people in the country and about 13 million in the metro area of Buenos Aires, the capital. Buenos Aires has about 3 million in the city limits. Because of the number of Italian immigrants in the city who fled World War II torn Italy, it is said that the Spanish there sounds almost Italian, very sing-songy. The dialect is almost a hybrid of the two. There are beautiful buildings in Argentina because of the number of architects who took up residence there and who immigrated from European countries, particularly from France. So many of the older buildings are designed after French structures. Therefore, it is said that someone who lives in Buenos Aires is a person who is Italian, who speaks Spanish, who thinks he's French. The city has a very European feel, and it's called the Paris of South America. On the left, you'll see a building that should look familiar. It is designed to look like the German Reichstag and also the U.S. House of Congress. It's their parliament building called El Congreso. On the right, you'll see pictures of El Teatro Colón, their national theater and opera house. It was the world's largest in the southern hemisphere until they built the Sydney Opera House. This used to be a live venue for performances, and it was purchased by a bookstore, El Ateneo. All the theater seating was converted into bookshelves carrying books, and the stage has been converted into a coffee shop. So you can actually sit on stage drinking your coffee or your chai, a very local beverage that's made of tea leaves, while you're reading. They are known for their beef because of the very, very large grassy plains in the northern part of the country. And the beef is all grass-fed. So as you can see, their portion size is a little large. On the right, you'll see La Avenida 9 Julio, named after their Independence Day, the widest avenue in the world. This is Plaza de Mayo, one of the oldest plazas. There are many in the city. This is one of the oldest and most historical. And at this plaza sits the very important Casa Rosada. It's the Argentine equivalent of the White House. So the residence of the President and First Lady. And this is where, in the movie Evita, which was a movie based on the Broadway play based on the life of Eva Duarte, the Argentine First Lady who was so adored by her people. This is one of the sites where it was filmed, and there was a scene in the movie where she was singing "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" from the balcony. On the right, you'll see the interior of their National Cathedral, and on the left here at the bottom right-hand corner of the left page, you'll see the exterior with its many columns. This is Boca, a very Italian neighborhood. In fact, it's where the Italian immigrants first settled. They were a working class, and so here you see the interior of what a typical home would have looked like in that neighborhood. This is also home of the tango, the Argentine national dance. It wasn't always a national dance. In fact, it was considered by high society of Buenos Aires to be very vulgar, to be a street dance. And then it made its way across the globe, and they started dancing el tango in Paris. It was when the Parisians took it up that the high society members in Buenos Aires decided to call it their national dance. So it had to be exported before it could be imported. Here you'll see the contrast between buildings in the Boca neighborhood that were left natural and the ones that were renovated. And what Spanish-speaking city is complete without un estadio de fútbol? Here's their soccer stadium. It is a modern global business city, so there are plenty of skyscrapers to be found, sometimes mixed with the more classical looking French buildings. French as in architecture, not as in residence. On the right, you'll see a very nice Italian restaurant in the neighborhood called Recoleta. This is the it neighborhood for sure. This is where people want to live and want to eat, and even where people want to be buried. They have one of the most beautiful cemeteries in the world. The ornate statues are just incredible. It's very heavily visited. And it says that it's good to live in Recoleta, but it's better to be buried there. Being a daughter of a funeral director, I can say that this is certainly the prettiest one I've ever seen. In fact, some of the mausoleums actually look more like miniature chapels. And the statues look as if they belong to a museum of fine art. And this one rests Eva Duarte Perón, the former First Lady. And on the right, you'll see this statue is very creatively carved to hover over the edge of the top of the mausoleum with her hand reaching towards the door as if to open the door and let the deceased out. This picture puts it into perspective. I'm standing in the middle, and you can see how tall some of these mausoleums are and how long the cemetery's avenues, if you want to call them that, are. And again, you are looking at the interior of mausoleums here. You can see the coffins. In La Recoleta, like in many Argentine neighborhoods, there are weekly ferias, which are open-air markets that happen once a week, and you can listen to beautiful live music. This neighborhood is called San Telmo. They have their own ferias, of course. And this neighborhood was the first place that the Spanish set up a colony in Argentina. Very old neighborhood. And this is an outdoor orchestra. They were so serious about their music that they even brought a piano along. To the right, you'll see more of the modern buildings surrounding this particular park, but this illustrates that a lot of the city is devoted or preserved for a green space. We have lots of parks and beautiful gardens. These are Japanese gardens. On the right, there's a large Japanese population in Argentina. And on the left, you'll see El Rio de la Plata, which is one of the widest rivers in the world. In fact, you actually have to be in a helicopter or an airplane to see the other side. More green space. Again, they have lots of parks. At the top right of the right-hand page is a hippodrome where they used to have the horse races that used to be extremely common for the wealthier residents of the city. And at the bottom has a picture of my husband enjoying a beverage in a restaurant that used to be a train station. So when they have old buildings that no longer serve their purpose, they convert them into structures that are still used. Here are some professional tango dancers. And also here, this is not the tango with the men playing drums. This is folkloric music that's common to the gauchos, who are the Argentine cowboys. The country is famous for its cowboys because, of course, they have lots of cattle. To the left are the professional dancers. To the right are the not-so-professional dancers. Although my friend and her husband did take tango lessons, my husband and I did not. So we assume that, but we don't tango. Here we are in a restaurant that actually was converted from a mansion, so a private mansion, turned into a restaurant, and we ate a 5-course meal with wine and dessert for $10 per person. It's an amazing deal. It's due to the fact that they had a banking collapse in the city, and even though they are recovering very well, the prices are still low compared to what they should be. So they are somewhat deflated, which makes it nice for travelers because you can really experience a full, rich stay on a budget. The most expensive part is getting there because the airfare is pricey and the flight takes about 11 hours. But once you're there, plan to stay for a while and enjoy a very high standard of living for a very low cost of living. It feels very much like dining in Europe. On the left, you'll see the dam that's the source of much of their hydroelectric power. It sits on the border with Uruguay. And on the right, you'll see a river. This river marks the borders of the three countries of Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil. The border actually sits at the bottom of this river and in the very center of the waterway. We traveled to Iguazu, which is the widest waterfall in the world, and it sits on the border of Argentina and Brazil. And because it's located in the rainforest, you actually hike through the rainforest to get to the waterfall, if you want to. I'm sure there are other ways. But we did that, and we enjoyed some sights along the way. So we saw some beautiful local flora and fauna and other animals. We were able to go ziplining and rappelling. And the best way to get a view of these magnificent waterfalls is to go for a helicopter ride, because that's the only way to take them all in. These are different areas of that same group of waterfalls. And they did a very nice job of building tons of platforms and bridges so that you can be inside of the waterfalls, taking them in, enjoying them while you're there, which means you do get wet and the noise is pretty deafening, but it's an amazing experience. I hope you enjoyed the journey. Gracias y adiós.